Welcome back to episode 3 of Reapproaching Adulthood. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who sent kind words and had genuine empathy. And to those who quote unquote wish for reconciliation between my mother and I, let me tell you what I wish for you. I wish you for you. I hope reconciliation between you and the last person who abused you, who betrayed you, who caused harm to you, who wished harm upon you. Do you see how silly you sound? Now that we got that out the way. When my mother called me jealous of her and Pastor Pervert, I felt just like Sally Fields at the end of Mrs. Doubtfire when she found out that Robin Williams was really Mrs. Doubtfire. And she kept saying the whole time, oh shit, the whole time. I too felt like, wow, the whole time my mother felt like I was jealous of her and a grown man. And when I say the whole time, I guess I mean my entire life, my entire relationship with her, with myself, with the world around me up until that point. So when she called me jealous, I thought to myself, well, have you hated me since I was a baby? Have you felt like I was jealous of you since I was an infant? And if so, how do I come back from that? So I was the type of sensitive kid that needed really, really, really good parents. Like I needed Duncan Penderhughes from Class Act. I needed his parents. I needed Jerry and Robert Peterson from The Parenthood. I needed them parents. I used to fantasize about the mom and dad from Gullah Gullah Island being my parents just because they was nice to the kids on the show. And low-key in a roundabout way, that's why I'm doing this right now. This is me being nice to my inner child and expressing myself in the way that I used to before all of this happened. It's super random, but there was a song called Yo Mama Smoke Crack Rock. And the chorus pretty much goes, na 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 na, yo mama smoke crack rock, right? This song came out in the 90s back when a crackhead was pretty much the worst thing your mama could be. Now, my mama wasn't no crackhead, but she was heavy set and deeply unhappy. Yet, I'd get teased about those things. I remember being at school and hearing the kids say, who fat ass mama is that? In my throat fall into my stomach because it was mine. But what do? I was only in elementary school. I guess my point is, why were we as children making each other responsible for our parents' choices? Now, the song Yo Mama Smoke Crack Rock is funny. It just is. I don't know why. But when I really unpacked that, them kids probably didn't ask for no crackhead mama, just like I didn't ask for no PDF protecting mama. So why am I being judged for distancing myself from that behavior and trying to heal from it? Anyway, I'm gonna tell some stories from my childhood that I wasn't allowed to talk about then, but obviously I'm allowed to talk about now. And at the end of each story, I'm gonna talk about how that situation impacted me. These are written down, so I am going to be reading them. So I was about 7 years old and my mom was joking with me about how ugly my feet were, saying, your feet are so ugly, you got Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble feet. You got ugly feet just like your father. Now, even though I was just a kid, I had seen this type of joking before, jonesing, if you will. So this is my first time giving it a try. After one more ugly feet joke from my mom, I excitingly yelled, well, you're fat. Next thing I know, she's screaming, don't you ever in your life call me fat, don't joke like that about me, so on and so forth. I understood perfectly. The following year, Pastor Pervert was in the kitchen with my mom and he poked her in the stomach saying, your little fat self. And I swung my head around waiting for her to tell him the same shit she told me, but instead she just giggled. Like, Kermie. She didn't say Kermie, but that was the energy. How did that impact me? Well, it was very, very difficult for me to respect my mother, especially when she was around men. Also, I have been hating these niggas since I was a little girl, and this is one of the reasons why. I damn near believe that I deserve to hate these niggas. So if you see me out here hating these niggas, just know that I'm different. I'm allowed. I have a doctor's note. I'm kidding. Next story. So I've always really been into fashion, but when I was in middle school, I had to wear these whack-ass uniforms, and the school I went to was in a bad neighborhood. So when it was time for me to go to high school in a better area, I was beyond excited to go clothes shopping. For one, I really needed actual non-uniform clothes, and I was physically bigger, so I legit needed new school clothes. Second of all, my grandfather had just left my mom a house specifically because she had a kid to take care of, me. My mother sold the house and then we moved to an apartment in a better neighborhood. My mom also had a really, really good job. Needless to say, I made a long ass list of clothes and shoes that I planned on getting to start high school. And I'm talking orange Prestos, hot pink Nike Air Max, all type of nonsense. I wanted my closet to look like a cross between Moesha's and Sinclair James's. So the first place we go back to school shopping was Old Navy. But as soon as we got there, my mom says to me, "You're just getting 2 pairs of pants." And I asked, "What did I do?" She snapped back, "Nothing." So obviously, I just had to sit with the disappointment. Anyway, we were in the fitting room with 2 pairs of pants, and my mom asks 13-year-old me, "Do I even know what child support is?" And I said, because I was only 13, "I think it's when the court makes you pay for me if you're not already paying for me." She says, "Funny you would use me as an example," as though I was supposed to use my father, who I hadn't seen or heard from in years, as an example. To make matters even worse, by the time we got home, she runs in her room, slams the door, and starts crying like she's the teenager. So at that moment, I knew I couldn't really depend on my mom for money, so I learned how to braid hair and kind of just stayed out of her way. But I always wondered where the sale of my grandfather's house went. Where did that money go? By the end of this podcast, I'm going to share where that money allegedly went. But first, how did that situation impact me? Well, it felt like I didn't really have a safe space to even have these feelings validated back then. And I was right. The other way the situation impacted me was my mother asking me about child support at that age really scared me because I thought something might be mentally wrong with my mom. And because I was still a kid, I didn't have the capacity to really deal with that type of trauma. So I suppressed it. Yes, and she was still the most competent person in that environment and around that time to care for me. So in a weird way, I am grateful. Next story. I was 15 with a driver's permit, making money, braiding hair, and my mom told me that if I saved $3,000 that she would take me to the dealership or the auction to buy a car. So I saved $3,000 and we made plans to go that Saturday. But the next day I got home from school, and this is the part I gotta read, and there's a car in the driveway with a bow on it. Pastor Pervert and my mom are standing next to the car, so I'm thinking this is a gift, but no. That car was $6,000 and Pastor Pervert used a credit card to pay for it. So I had to give him the $3,000 that I'd saved and $200 a month to pay off the rest, which I totally understand, but I was 15 and still knew that I was building his credit because the car wasn't in my name. How that impacted me? Well, I completely stopped telling my mom things that I was excited about because I knew that she would involve him, and I wasn't wrong. Next story, when I was 16, my mom asked what I wanted for my birthday and I told her a nose ring. She said I should get a nose job first. Yes, she is Black with a nose just as big as mine, if not bigger. And yes, even the way that she said it happened to be funny. I promise, I do understand that type of humor. But she had been making comments about my appearance for years. So even though I was laughing, my feelings was definitely hurt. How did that impact me? Well, I thought I was ugly, specifically for being Black. Okay, this is the last story, but it's kind of funny. So I was about 3 years into doing stand-up comedy. Fun fact, when I first started, I was clean. So I did a lot of the churches and clean venues, and then eventually it was fuck that shit. But back then, Pastor Pervert left a voicemail on my cell phone from a blocked number trying to book me for a non-paying, last-minute, kid-friendly show in downtown LA where the parking is trash. So I never called him back. The next day, my mom calls me asking why I didn't call Pastor Pervert back about the show. I said, because I'm not doing it. She says, but you still could have called him and told him that after all, quote unquote, that man did what your own father couldn't even do for you. He bought you a car. And she had been saying this for many, many, many years up to that point. And I wanted this to be the last time she said that. So I said, well, if that's the case, tell him to give me back $6,000. Then we can say that he bought me a car. Her response, oh, well, since it's like that, I won't refer you to any more church shows. I said, good, them church checks be bouncing, and they do. Mind you, I'm laughing, trying to make light of this situation. She's not. She's She's getting more and more amped. So then she says, well, when somebody asks who did my hair, I'm not gonna tell them, but I did her hair. I did some kinky twists in her hair. I said, so if someone asks who did your hair, you're just gonna say nobody? You're gonna say that? Mind you, I'm laughing. She hung up in my face. How that impacted me, honestly, I still don't know, but it was the funniest story out of them all, and I wanted to end that series of stories with the funniest one. I just want to say that I thought all those experiences were normal. This is not a story, but this is just a fact. My mother used to let me know several times growing up and as an adult that she preferred having a boy over a girl. I knew since I was a child that my mother wanted a boy over me. And I thought that was normal. I thought everybody mama was like that. So the bulk of this reparenting is identifying the problematic, which is a lot of things, unlearning those things, and making peace with the fact that I always knew since I was 5 years old that all this shit was stupid. Now for a better feeling story. One of my favorite memories with my mom is taking the train to San Diego when I was about 6 years old. We spent the whole day at the zoo and we were giving the animals voices and laughing real hard. And I remember on the train ride home, I felt so safe and secure. And I remember thinking that it was supposed to be like that forever. I also have a lot of empathy for my mom, not to the point of excusing her actions, but her mother did pass away when she was 14, and I suspect that she matured up into that point and no further. I also suspect that she just didn't have the proper guidance to help her grieve. I don't think she had the right support to help her heal through that type of trauma or loss either. I know that my father mistreated her before I was born, during her pregnancy with me, and after I was born. And I know that they were very toxic with each other, but nothing ever got resolved or repaired or healed. It was just recycled through the same types of situations, and they had a kid. Side note, sometimes when I be healing on purpose, I can hear a faint voice in the background of my mind screaming, "This is some white people shit." Because I remember as a kid being yelled at, but never yelling back. That was something my mom and them would actually call white people shit. Me not wanting to yell, anybody not wanting to fight, white people shit. Like, she definitely wanted me to be confrontational with her, yet it was also very unsafe for me to do. My mom reminded me of those girls in elementary school that would be like, I want to fight her, and no, I don't know why, I just don't like her. I want to fight her. Big, gross sisters from the Proud Family energy. I remember the first time I was asked how I felt about that, I said, am I allowed to be angry yet? Because up to that point, I had always had more empathy for my mother than I had ever had for myself. So it always felt like, well, when I'm done having empathy for her, then I can be angry and have empathy for me at the same time. I don't know how to do that. I've never seen it done. Don't have a frame of reference in my nervous system for how that's supposed to feel. I know that was so random, my bad. And then on Waiting to Exhale, when Bernadine told Savannah, I thought if I gave him what he needed, talking about John, that he'd give me what I needed. That's how I felt about my mom. I felt like if I just survived her, if I just loved her, if I just contorted myself in all the ways that made her feel good enough to finally give me what I needed, then she'd give me what I needed. But she didn't even give me what she got for a pork chop. Yeah, I'm one of those millennials. I should have, trigger warning. Okay, I know I might be pushing the envelope when I say this, but in the spirit of empathy, both of my parents and I are from Los Angeles, California, which happens to be very superficial. I love my hometown, but it could be very superficial, and I'm not just talking about for industry's sake. I mean, people really care more about how something looks than what something actually is. And I'm sure a lot of my mother's internalized self-hatred came from her growing up in such an overly aesthetic place. So I can't blame LA, but I do blame LA a little bit, because the same type of mean girls and mean boys that bullied me growing up, definitely bullied her. And none of that behavior was ever fucking okay. And I forgive, of course. I just needed to name what was happening so that I could fix it realistically without that being looked at as fight. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about the ugly emotions such as anger, rejection, abandonment, resentment, betrayal, disappointment, confusion, sadness, especially sadness. The worst part of the sadness I went through was the part where I didn't have a mother to help me through all the sadness of losing my mother. And I forgive my mother too, because she didn't have anybody, not really probably, to help her walk through her sadness of losing her mother either. Yes, and no reconciliation. I told you I was going to share at the end of the episode where the money from the sale of my grandfather's house allegedly went. Now, this is alleged because it came from a source that knew me and the details of this situation, but I didn't know them. Now, after speaking with them, I now believe all this, but I still have to say this is alleged. So I was told that my mother gave all of that money to Pastor Pervert, every dime, $160,000. He allegedly spent that money on his child support, $10,000. That ironic, my mom was sweating me about child support at 13 years old for me, but she gave money to pay a man child support that she ain't got no kids with. Anyway, the rest of the money went to studio time for a gospel Christmas CD. And the majority of the money allegedly went to an attorney to fight a charge that is so heinous, I can assure you, reconciliation is impossible. So if you don't know what to say to someone who is no contact with their family for reasons like mine, especially having to do with safety, please offer at the very least support or empathy. I was not prepared for this level of judgment and hatred just because I would not allow my mother to harm me. Even after all that, I'm still human trying to navigate adulthood in healthier ways than what I was shown. And I was handled like empathy was too much of an expectation. I don't know if y'all know, but that kind of made me lose my spark. And niggas was even happy about that. But God must be real, because obviously I'm still here. And even after all that hurt, I still have no desire to hurt others. The only revenge I want is healing and to be able to yap about my experiences like I was doing before all of this happened. Last thing before I go, I am a Scorpio with Pluto in my 4th house. I have no idea what that means, but the astrology girlies tell me that this whole no contact thing with my mother was always destined to happen. I have no idea how much of that to believe, but it comforts me somehow. Also, there is a verse in the Bible, I can't remember what it is, but it's something to the effect of, when my mother and father forsake me, God will take care of me. That also comforts me. I share all this to encourage others on a similar path to continue. You are obviously not alone. I love you, and I'll see you on the next episode.